No, welcome to another edition of Stand on Guard. We had some massive technical issues this morning. No, it wasn't the mic; it was the the slides disappeared. So I just had to get them back here quickly. Thanks for waiting. All I can say at the beginning of this broadcast is that we are entering a new age of media. We've already been there, but it's like it's catching up with reams of the population. Donald Trump is moving so fast as President-elect Donald Trump that the mainstream media can't even keep up to him. They just can't keep the same pace. So a lot of the information, it's out there on social media before the mainstream media is even aware that it's happening. And this is absolutely without precedent what's happening with Donald Trump right now. I will tell you right now, whether you're a religious person, a person of faith, I don't care if you're a Christian, Jew, or Muslim, or Hindu, or Sikh, keep Donald Trump in your prayers. Because believe me, what he's trying to do now as the president-elect, he has like literally just over 2 months before he becomes president on January 20th, 2025. He is so ambitious in terms of taking down the deep state. And this is really what this is all about. So I can't show you the entire video here because there's music on the end. You know what happens? Maybe some of you don't know that. If there's music at all in a video, it gets immediately flagged by YouTube as copyright, even if the music is completely unattached to any performer, any musician, any composer. So I'll have to stop the video there and then go from the notes here. But I think it'll be worthwhile. Anyway, let us go to that video, and all I got to do is find it. Of course, here we go.
And to dismantle the deep state and reclaim our democracy from Washington.
Here's
my plan to dismantle the deep state and reclaim our democracy from Washington corruption once and for all, and corruption it is. First, I will immediately reissue my 2020 executive order restoring the president's authority to remove rogue bureaucrats, and I will wield that power very aggressively. Second, we will clean out all of the corrupt actors in our national security and intelligence apparatus, and there are plenty of them. The departments and agencies that have been weaponized will be completely overhauled so that faceless bureaucrats will never again be able to target and persecute conservatives, Christians, or the left's political enemies, which they're doing now at a level that nobody can believe even possible. Third, we will totally reform FISA courts, which are so corrupt that the judges seemingly do not care when they are lied to in warrant applications. So many judges have seen so many applications that they know were wrong, or at least they must have known. They do nothing about it. They're lied to. Fourth, to expose the hoaxes and abuses of power that have been tearing our country apart, we will establish a Truth and Reconciliation Commission to declassify and publish all.
I love the name of this, Truth and Reconciliation. What do we do in Canada? We do navel gazing about things that happened 200 years ago. We do navel gazing about the so-called disenfranchisement and enfranchisement of indigenous peoples, when, of course, all we need is equality across the board. This is the kind of Truth and Reconciliation Commission we need.
Documents on deep state spying, censorship, and corruption, and there are plenty of them. Fifth, we will launch a major crackdown on government leakers who collude with the fake news to deliberately weave false narratives and to subvert our government and our democracy. We will press criminal charges. Sixth, we will...
I got to read the rest here to you, because believe it or not, we'll get in trouble if we don't here. But this is, once again, Donald Trump went right to social media with this, bypassing the fake news. So there you go. Here's Trump's deep state dismantling. You heard him read the first 5. I'm going to read the next 6 here. I gotta have my glasses. Number 6, make every inspector general's office independent and physically separated from the departments they oversee, so they do not become the protectors of the deep state. 7, ask Congress to establish an independent auditing system to continually monitor our intelligence agencies. Very important to ensure that they are not spying on our citizens who are running disinformation campaigns against the American people, or that they are not spying on someone's campaign like they spied on Trump's campaign. Number 8, continue the effort launched by the Trump administration to move parts of the sprawling federal bureaucracy to new locations outside the Washington swamp. Huge! Number 9, work to ban federal bureaucrats from taking jobs at the companies they deal with and that they regulate. This is a revolving door in Washington. That's what he's talking about here. Number 10, push a constitutional amendment to oppose term limits on members of Congress. Now, that is what Donald Trump is talking about. I can tell you this is revolutionary. And to tell people that they can't join a company like Boeing or Raytheon or McDonnell Douglas after they've been in Congress sucking up to this organization, supposedly trying to regulate it when they're not. They're just making life easier for the military industrial establishment. Then to leave office and, hey, we got a job. Happens all the time, happens in Canada all the time. I could give you a dozen examples of that happening. But that is what is going on here with Donald Trump. And once again, what happened here? Did he decide, oh, I'm going to have a news conference and the fake news is all going to be invited? No, he didn't do that. He decided he was going to talk about this. And I'm going to find. And what else is Donald Trump doing? 48 hours, a little over that now, because it was the early hours of Wednesday. Here we are, Friday. It's quarter to 11. So it's been over 48 hours. Donald Trump has already moved more in that 48 hours than has happened in 4 years of the Biden-Harris administration, where they have just been feeding the armaments industry. And when they have been just feeding the war in Ukraine, feeding the war in the Middle East, and no conception of actually stopping things, of actually halting the war, because we're told these lies that Ukraine's fighting for its freedom and it's fighting for your freedom too. No, it's fighting for its own corruption. And in the first place, this war goes back a lot longer than 3 years. So foreign policy in 48 hours. It de-escalates Russian-Ukraine war. Talking about a demilitarized zone. Ukraine cannot join NATO for 20 years. And guess what? NATO will not be around in 20 years because it is an organization without a clear objective, or at least a rational objective anymore, with the Cold War over. So sure, say 20 years, because NATO will not exist. And there's actually talk about Donald Trump taking the United States out of NATO. That'll be the end of the organization because the United States pays all the bills. The United States is the one with all the military hardware to enforce whatever NATO says. De-escalate the war in Gaza. Stop talking about going to war with Iran. Now Trump has said he supports Israel. Yes. We've always supported Israel. I've always supported Israel, but I say stop sending them all the arms they want so they can continue this war, continue the activity in Gaza. We need to have peace in the region before it escalates into a nuclear conflict, before it escalates into at the very least, a regional war involving Iran, perhaps Iraq, perhaps Turkey, perhaps a lot of other countries that don't think Israel should be calling all of the shots in this situation. Believe me, this is about saving Israel from Netanyahu. This is about saving Israel as a nation. Because if Netanyahu has his way, he's going to destroy Israel. China is even publicly talking to Trump about peaceful coexistence. No, we don't need World War III with China either. Folks, I can't tell you how excited I am about what's going on here because, we all said, well, when Donald Trump is president, things are going to change. And I think I believed it. But damn it, I wanted to see some evidence on day one, and that's exactly what I'm seeing. Now, Trump and Putin had a phone call. And before I hear idiots like Andrew Coyne say, that means he's a stooge of Putin. No, it means he's reaching out to the other nuclear superpower in the world. Russia has more nuclear weapons than the United States. Russia could still decimate the United States with nuclear arms. We don't want a nuclear war with Russia. We don't want a nuclear war with Russia because it's no longer even a communist state. And we didn't want a nuclear war when it was a communist state. That was unthinkable. That was not a policy. That was rational. So let's stop talking about going to war with Russia. And that's what Donald Trump is doing. Talk to Vladimir Putin. You can't ignore the man. You can't pretend he's not the president of Russia. You can't pretend that he's somehow irrelevant, and if we just ignore him, he'll go away. And he's not serious about fighting back if NATO escalates the war in Ukraine. That's all rhetoric. The Democrats are crazy and have been out of their heads for 4 years on this. Donald Trump is seeing reality. Now, what's happening in Israel? Donald Trump's talking about cutting off the weapons supply. The incredible thing is Donald Trump, has been called everything in the book. He has explicitly stated he supports Israel. I have explicitly stated over the years I support the state of Israel, and I have done everything over the years. But Israel has got to stop the war in Gaza. We have got to stop this from escalating into a world war, and we need some rational peace talk to go on here. There's nothing crazy about talking about peace. When did that become insane? When did it become beyond the pale to talk about stopping a war before it becomes a nuclear confrontation? When did that become crazy? When Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and the people behind them who started saying, no, it's all or nothing. We're going to have a nuclear war with Russia over Ukraine, or we're going to invade Iran before we even think about stopping the war. Like I said, I spent a good deal of my career in the military. I'm not a pacifist. I think there are times when we have to go to war, but not just because some people making the arms say it's a good idea because they're making a lot of money off these things. There comes a time. Here we are approaching Remembrance Day next week. Remember, we don't want another war. That's what it's about. It's not about stoking the fires for war. It's not about stoking the anger so we can go fight again. We need to avoid a third world war because I think we all understood that for most of the Cold War, that this was not a possible policy objective. It was out. It was completely irrational to think so. And that's Donald Trump is actually moving on these fronts. I'm so damn proud of what's going on here because of course it affects Canada. Wayne Gretzky being castigated by the likes of Andrew Coyne. How dare he support Donald Trump? How dare he go to the Mar-a-Lago election night victory party with Donald Trump? And this to me is just the bottom of the barrel criticism from these mainstream media, these legacy media, these in the pocket of Justin Trudeau media, like Andrew Coyne and other columnists who just spew BS constantly. Yeah, Wayne Gretzky and family attend Trump election night event at Mar-a-Lago. I wrote about this at the Post Millennial yesterday. Story's still not up. But this was great news. Happy to see it. And Joe Warmington, my friend from the Toronto Sun, responds to Andrew Coyne. This is incredible. Look at and how many flags does this idiot need on his X site? 1, 2, 3, 4. It's ridiculous. And he says, I have no problem with Gretzky being a conservative. Well, how nice for you, Andrew. I do have a problem with him hanging with Trump, who for start is not a conservative. Actually, yes, Donald Trump is a conservative. And I don't give a damn what you have a problem with or what you don't have a problem with. Nobody reads you anymore. It's unlikely you're going to have a job in the next 4 years because the mainstream media is effectively dead. And your organ is going with it. But Joe Warmington responds, he says, who cares what you think? Wayne Gretzky doesn't, and neither do most people. Nobody answers to you or worries about what you have a problem with. You're as bad at playing God as you are at reading politics. You lost and are too arrogant to accept it. 99 was on the winning side. Wayne Gretzky is still the all-time leader in goals, assists, and points in the National Hockey League. An incredible competitor. I hate to use the word legend, but when it comes to people like Wayne Gretzky, it's applicable. He was called the Great One. He was an incredible hockey player. Nobody can take that away from him. And if he decides he wants to support Donald Trump, I think that should probably indicate that Donald Trump's on the winning side too. Donald Trump's a winner. And that, of course, is what the mainstream media and columnists like Andrew Coyne don't want you to know. Now, I'm going to show you a video here. This is shocking. Don't leave, because this is absolutely shocking. What are the conservatives doing in Canada right now? Are they saying, hallelujah, Donald Trump was reelected. Conservatism is on the rise. We have common sense government back in the United States. Oh, we're on the verge of it. We have a president who wants to destroy the deep state and everything that goes with it. That can happen in Canada too. Are we hearing that from the conservatives in Canada? No, we're not. And we should be. We need to hear that. The Conservative Party should be really making hay over this, but they're being very quiet because they say, oh, Canadians don't like Donald Trump. So we'd better pretend we're not really too happy about it. Yes, we'll congratulate him. Justin Trudeau congratulated him. Do you think Justin Trudeau is happy about this? He knows it's another nail in the coffin of the Trudeau government. He knows it's another indication his time is limited as being the leader of the Liberal Party and the Prime Minister of Canada. Justin Trudeau knows that. What does Pierre Poilievre know? And this is absolutely imperative to figure. We need to understand this. We absolutely need to understand this. And I think this is an opportunity. But what are the conservatives doing right now? They're taking part in a kangaroo court. Shall we call it a Stalinist show trial? That's what they're doing. They're joining in, excuse me, the Trudeau government's overweening chant about disinformation and misinformation. Any journalist who dares to criticize the war in Ukraine, and who are the liberals going after? They're going after small c conservatives. They're going after independent media. Now, I am not going to say what went on with Lauren Chen because I don't have all the facts. But I don't for a minute believe she's a Russian agent any more than I believe David Pugliese is a Russian agent. It's all a smear campaign to take the emphasis off of what the real problem in Canada is: Trudeau's disinformation. Let Canadians decide what is disinformation and misinformation in the news. You have a right to make that choice yourself. You have a right to make that decision yourself without the government of Canada giving you its officially sanctioned version of the truth. And that's what Justin Trudeau is doing. And unfortunately, conservative MPs are joining in this kangaroo court. You watch this, and if you know anything about American history in the 1950s, where there was a House on Un-American Activities Committee that used to badger witnesses, used to literally shout at witnesses until they got the answers they wanted. And if that person had once said that they had attended a Communist Party meeting, didn't even know it was, that was it. Now it's, have you ever said that Ukraine is corrupt? Have you ever said that maybe the war in Ukraine should end? Therefore, you're a Russian agent. Listen to these clowns. This is absolutely shocking.
On public safety and national security.
I am here today as required by the summons delivered to me. My understanding is you wish to ask me questions about a subject you are studying with a view of making recommendations as part of your legislative role. After consulting with counsel, both in Canada and the United States, I have concluded on their advice that answering questions from this committee could reasonably provide quote, link in the chain toward a possible indictment against me with respect to the above-mentioned or related proceedings. I recognize that the difficulty is that the Fifth Amendment of the United States Constitution does not apply in Canada. I am aware that I have no right to plead the Fifth before this committee. I've been advised, and I do believe, the one policy reason behind Canada's lack of protection, similar to the American Fifth Amendment, is that Canada has a different form of protection located within Section 13 of the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms, which provides that if I testify in proceedings, I have the right not to have any incriminating evidence so given to be used to incriminate me in other proceedings. Subject to sections would not apply here. This is how the American protection against self-incrimination is not formally recognized in Canada. However, Section 13 of the Charter is not formally recognized in the United States, and so it would not be of assistance to me should I accede to answering any questions. Accordingly, it is with the above considerations in mind that I must indicate that I will not answer any questions posed to me once I appear before this committee. I note in taking this position that Section 7 of the Charter of Rights and Freedoms protects me in situations where Section 13 does not apply, where life, liberty, or security interests are at stake. Considering the investigation taking place in respect of Kalashnikov, I verily believe that my refusal to answer questions is lawful and protected under Section 7 of the Charter. I also assert respectfully that in the relatively unique circumstances in which I find myself, in 2D of the Canadian Bill of Rights, SC 1960 C44, as well as the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, to which Canada is a signatory, protect my refusal to testify. Please note that my refusal is contingent solely on my legitimate concerns about possible self-incrimination. Once the investigation has been completed and it is determined that there may be no future proceedings taken against me in respect of that or related matters, I wish that this honorable committee be aware that I would be willing to reattend before it and answer all questions on such issues.
Thank you, Ms. Chen, for being here with us today. They'll know.
Now here's a conservative MP from Manitoba, Raquel Dancho. Just can't wait to get her teeth into this witness. Just can't wait to go on about disinformation and misinformation, and everybody who disagrees with the Trudeau government's a Russian agent. This is absolutely appalling. Get a job, Raquel.
Note that you did not necessarily come willingly. You were summoned. You've outlined to this committee that you've come here and you won't be answering any of our questions. It's quite frustrating for us as committee members to have a witness here for 2 hours who refuses to answer any questions. And of course, you've been called here, as you outlined, in line with the.
Actually, that's a bloody lie. That's exactly what they want, because all they want to do is hear themselves talk, because they think Canadians are listening. Good, you're a real patriot, Raquel. No, you're not. You're an absolute disgrace to your party and to your country.
Russian disinformation study that we're currently engaging, and notably because of your involvement in the indictment from the Department of Justice in the United States. And so I've gone through this indictment at length, and I'm deeply concerned about any involvement you and your company, Tenant Media, have had. And I have a number of questions for you. So I hope that you may answer some of them and really service the Canadian institutions that you're here for. And I would just remind you that this is a committee of Parliament. We are members of Parliament at this table. You've been rightfully summoned. And it is your obligation, under my belief and the belief of our committee, that you should be answering these questions. That is the duty that you have to the Canadian institutions that you are here today. That we all work hard. We serve this committee. This is the Public Safety and National Security Committee.
On their advice that answering questions.
Any questions? And of course, you've been.
Yes, she's working very hard for the Trudeau government. Thank you very much for your service to Justin Trudeau, Raquel.
Called here, as you outlined, in line with the Russian disinformation study that we're currently engaging.
So why are they engaging in a Russian disinformation study right now? Every committee, virtually every committee, has got this sideline now of examining Russian disinformation. It's now a crime to disagree with the Trudeau government, or at least they want to make it a crime, and it becomes Russian disinformation.
And notably because of your involvement in the indictment from the Department of Justice in the United States. And so I've gone through this indictment at length, and I'm deeply concerned about any involvement you and your company, Tenant Media, have had. And I have a number of questions for you. So I hope that you may answer some of them and really service the Canadian institutions that you're here for. And I would just remind you that this is a committee of Parliament. We are members of Parliament at this table. You've been rightfully summoned. And it is your obligation, under my belief and the belief of our committee, that you should be answering these questions. That is the duty that you have to the Canadian institutions that you are here today. That we all work hard. We serve this committee. This is the Public Safety and National Security Committee of Canada. So I'd urge you to reconsider answering our questions. This is a very serious matter that you have engaged in, or allegedly through this indictment. And again, I'd ask that you respectfully engage in a dialogue.
I remind you all, folks, that this indictment was from the United States Department of Justice. So that will play out its course. Why are the Conservatives joining a disinformation committee with the Liberals and the NDP to go after these people in addition to that investigation? What the hell is wrong with this
with
picture?
us today and answer our questions. So there are a number of issues in here that I'd like to go over with you. But of course, first and foremost, I'd like to ask you, were you directly receiving payments from Russia today to proliferate the propaganda from the Russian government to your North American audience?
For the reasons outlined in my opening statement, I have no comment.
Ms. Chen, again, I'd ask you to reconsider. The allegations in this indictment are very serious and your reach is quite far. And so I'd ask that you reconsider. Again, I'll ask you perhaps another issue. Are you aware that Canada imposed special economic measures against Russia today in 2022?
It's very, very serious. It's so funny because Larry King, when he was still, one of the greatest broadcasters in U.S. history, was working for Russia Today. A lot of broadcasters were working for Russia Today at one time. Now, I don't know if she received any payments, and those questions will be answered. But when did it become a crime to disagree with the Liberal government? When were you? That was the most serious possible thing, to disagree with the Trudeau administration, the Trudeau regime on Ukraine. And unfortunately, this is what's going to have to happen here, folks. Pierre Poilievre is going to have to realize there's a new government about to take over in the United States, and it's not concerned about fighting with Ukraine for as long as it takes. It's not concerned about keep funneling billions of dollars of arms to Ukraine. It's not concerned about that. It wants to end the war. So Pierre Poilievre is going to have to wake up to that reality. And the Conservative Party of Canada is going to have to wake up to what most of their grassroots supporters want, which is an end to the war and to stop funneling tens of billions of dollars to Ukraine, where it goes into the black hole of Kiev, into the corrupt pockets of politicians, or the pockets of corrupt politicians. That's a wake-up call. And they have got to stop being in lockstep with the Trudeau government on this. And we need peace in Ukraine. I'll say that again. Thank you for watching today, folks. Remember to resolve to resist. We can take hope from what's happening in the United States right now. And believe me, you're not going to hear a lot of this news on CNN, MSNBC, or even Fox anymore. Donald Trump is going directly to the new media, directly to independent media, and he's bypassing the fake news. That's what's happening. And that's good news for us all. Thanks for watching today. I'll be back again tomorrow with more of the news that you need to know so that we can all continue to resolve to resist.